0-0 at half-time, and a very even contest was prized open by Palace when Sarr slipped in Jean-Philippe Mateta for the opener. You felt that was a pivotal moment, and the second arrived when Mark Gay stole in from a set piece to volley home. Leicester, in between that, hit the bar through Bouba Samari. They were in this game for long spells, but they couldn't find their way through, and Palace did twice. And that's why the full-time score is Leicester 0, Crystal Palace 2.
Thank you very much, Chris Parrott. Jerry will stay with us for a little bit of time as we assess that. Ewan Roberts and Matt Elliott are alongside me, Dan Bates, here in the studio on a really bitterly disappointing evening here at King Power Stadium. Ewan, purely because of the fact you're next to me, I'm going to come to you first. A tough one to take, that.
It is. I was really positive and encouraged with the first half performance. Thought we sort of picked up from where we left off against Manchester City, on that front foot, creating opportunities, playing well, good in possession. Look at the second half, it's chalk and cheese, Dan. I mean, Palace came out really early for the start of the second half. Goodness knows what went on in that away dressing room at half time. We never got to grips with it. We sort of reacted on 65 minutes. They scored a good goal, and I think the difference was at the start of that second half. We spoke about Sarr and Eze and how they were pushing up with Mateta and playing a three up front, if you like, in the first half, and never really got any joy out of it apart from that chance from a deflected shot to Mateta, which he horribly missed. But they both played as number 10s, or started playing as number 10s at the start of that second half, and we never really got to grips with it. And that's where the first goal came from. Sarr does ever so well. Could we have done better to stop him from threading that ball through Mateta? Possibly. Vestergaard, can he sort of be slightly braver and hold his ground and not sort of drop deeper? I can understand why he has dropped deeper, because he has got a lack of pace. It's inches whether it's offside or not. I don't think he was offside, and it's proven that anyway. He takes it ever so well, Mateta. Then we sort of make changes, still create chances. We're not being clinical enough in front of the goal. Samara hits the bar. We get another couple of good opportunities to sort of level things, and then we get punished from a set piece. It's a really poor goal from a Leicester point of view. I'm not sure. I think we're not too sure if it was Skip or McAteer, who's he shouldn't be picking Mark Gay up. Someone who's, because they're not going to shoot from there. There's only one thing they're going to do. They're going to sort of play it into a dangerous area and hope one of their bigger players is going to come on and do what Gay did. Someone's got to take responsibility. He's my man. I'm picking him up. You can't expect Casey McAteer to challenge Mark Gay in the box.
Yeah, how disappointing, Jerry, was that second goal from a Leicester point of view, particularly for what Ewan is highlighting?
They're very few and far between score goals like that. For that to happen, I think Casey McAteer just switches off. He runs around the blind side of him, Gahey. He's watching the ball, not the man. And by the time the ball gets over the top of Casey McAteer, Gay's already round the back of him. He's got a free shot on goal. But Ewan's right. Normally in that situation, the best you can do as an attacker is help it back across into the middle of the goal. But on this occasion, he gets a free shot straight on the volley. So I tells you he's got time to steady himself and hit it full on the volley. And as I say, normally all you're doing is helping that back across into the box because you're under severe pressure. So to concede a goal in that fashion, it's pretty disappointing, pretty frustrating.
That final say for you, Jerry, before we let you go this evening. Overall, how do you sum up what you've just seen there in that 90 minutes?
Well, Dan, I was trying to get my words out earlier, but there was too much happening on the pitch, and I was going to say that a game like this would be won and lost on the team that make the least amount of mistakes, and the team that when those opportunities come, they take them. And that's exactly what Palace did. They didn't make any mistakes at the back. They had 2 opportunities, they took them. So yeah, but it was a decent performance. Credit to Palace, they came out in the second half, as Ewan said, and Eze and Sal, their start positions completely changed, and the way they played completely changed from the first half, because they were getting overrun. They helped steady the ship in the middle of the park. Harry Winks just couldn't get going, neither could Samari. They couldn't get any control in that second half, and sadly paid the ultimate price.
Thank you very much, Jerry, for your company this evening and your co-commentary, of course. Matt, you're yet to have your say, are you, on that? And I'm sure you probably share the same disappointment that all 30,000 Leicester fans here tonight did.
Yeah, similar sentiments to the boys before, but frustrating as well after a decent first half performance. I still thought there was no real cutting edge, and Leicester needed a little more sort of input and influence in that final third to seriously threaten and worry Palace. Because Palace are pretty good at what Jerry just mentioned there about not making mistakes. They're not spectacular to watch, and they don't play sort of particularly outlandishly, but they're pretty efficient these days. And that one loss in 12 now, as it is, points to that. So you know what you're up against. It's hard to get your own game going, any rhythm in your play, because of how they set up. But they don't care about that. They just get down and dirty a little bit, don't they? And then they've got a bit of quality where and when it matters. But frustrating from Leicester's point of view in terms of the promise was there, and it should have sort of. Well, it gave the fans, gave us encouragement going into the second half. But then that interval, they made a couple of little adjustments, as Jerry mentioned, refocused their mentality, the opposition. And Leicester weren't able to sort of take it that step further, really. And frustrating, but disappointing is probably a better word. And started worrying, really, that they weren't able to. In a fixture as important as this, everything considered, the opposition at home, the importance of getting a positive result tonight, and they weren't able to push it that gear further, that step further. It's quite damaging, really, isn't it? In truth. But live to fight another day and all that. But it's a big blow, you have to say.
Hey, you've got that home dressing room beneath us. It'll be a quiet one. It'll be a really disappointing one. I think there'll be thoughts of we should have got something from that game. How we
statistically in that, they can back themselves up with that.
Possession, 20 shots, only 3 on target. Had more corners than Crystal Palace. If you showed someone the stats, they'd be scratching their heads.
It wasn't a horror show.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I got punished for a really slow start to the second half. 15, 20 minutes. We never got going. We never sort of adjusted to the little tweaks that Palace did at the start of that second half. They came out really early, as I said. Whether they'd had a right rollicking at half time, that they probably would have. I mean, going into this game, Leicester have scored more goals than Palace this season. And the worrying thing is now, obviously, the 6 consecutive losses in the Premier League, 3 consecutive losses at home, where they haven't scored, but created enough chances to have scored. Okay, put that Wolves on to one side. You look at the Man City game, should have scored at least 1, maybe 2. Should have got something out of the game. Today, had enough opportunities to win the game. Been punished for two sort of lapses of concentration, especially with a second goal. But you got to brush yourself down, Dan. You've got to get ready to go again on Saturday. Games coming thick and fast. It's another massive game at home against Fulham. You can't go home and feel sorry for yourself. You've got to sort of turn up for training tomorrow. I'm sure they'll analyse the performance and what they could have done better, what they sort of need to work on. That's 1 clean sheet in 24 home games now in the Premier League. Matt will tell you, you have to keep clean sheets to win games, especially when you're not sort of spoilt with sort of goal-scoring players in your team. You've got to be able to grind out results and keep clean sheets. They're so important.
Yeah, that's probably the most frustrating thing about it. There's a lot of frustrating things, Matt, but yeah, they do need to just try and tighten that up somewhat.
Yeah, listen, easier said than done, isn't it? When you get that goal or you get the lead in the game, sometimes that's easier to keep that clean sheet afterwards, isn't it? Because you're not striving forward, you're more compact as a team. There's all sorts of reasons and permutations as to why you don't keep a clean sheet or score a goal more regularly, etc. But yeah, listen, look, overall, across the breadth of the season, obviously Leicester have come up short right now because their league position shows that. But I don't think it's a lost cause. I don't think it's a lost cause at all at this stage. There will be despondency, there will be disappointment, of course, from certain quarters, but another massive game that's even bigger now because of what's happened tonight. It would have been huge regardless, but all is not lost right now, and they haven't capitulated, they haven't been totally outclassed, overrun, outmaneuvered, outplayed, whatever you want to call it. If they were in a situation where they looked, a million miles off it and totally out their depth, then, then perhaps it's a different scenario, isn't it? But I think
they did create enough chances, didn't they? In particular, I mean, the formation change seemed to work in the second half, didn't it? When obviously that was still at 1-0, I think, wasn't it? And then Leicester did have a few moments.
Two strikers.
The Vardy chance at the back post.
Yeah. You'd expect
the Vardy
some
chance
sort of
first
rally.
half, one of those goes in. It's a completely different game. It's not like Palace came here and just battered Leicester.
No, it could have been different. Some would say it should have been different on the play, on general play or chances. But that's all part of the levels, isn't it? As well, you can't say, "Oh, we played well, but we if only we could have finished that off." That's what good players and individuals do. They finish off the half chances sometimes or whatever.
Must have over double the amount of shots that Palace did.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a horror story, is it? And like I say, there's still enough there for people to feed on, and most importantly, the manager and the players to feed on for the weekend as well against Fulham, because that is huge. With some tough games coming up, etc. But not that Fulham isn't tough, because their record's similar, if not better, than you're more up to date on me than that with the old statistics. But they've got as good a record as Palace of late, haven't they?
Yeah, they had the negative result. Obviously, they lost to West
last night.
Yeah.
I think they won one Premier League defeat since 19th of October. But obviously they go to the London Stadium last night and get turned over. I think if Leicester play like they did in that first 45 minutes and carry that on into that second half and don't have those sort of lapses in concentration, which you don't get punished for at Championship level, but at this level, at the Premier League level, you will get punished for any sort of lapse of concentration, any mistake that you make in that final third. You're going to get punished against teams in the Premier League. It's that simple. But
you've seen the stark difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
These last two games, haven't you?
Because I mean, there was mistakes that happened last season in the Championship, but teams weren't good enough to sort of capitalise and punish Leicester with the way Enzo wanted to play and playing out the back. And we saw it on a few occasions where we lost possession sort of in that final third, but the teams we were up against weren't your Crystal Palaces, weren't you? That was a far better performance than what the lads served up against Wolves. And I know it's a crumb of comfort for Leicester fans. You can't depend on other teams to drop points. But we looked before we came on air. Wolves are losing, Aston Villa are beating Everton at Goodison. So yeah, we haven't taken care of our business at the King Power tonight against Crystal Palace, but at least at the minute that results are going forward as crumb of comfort, I know, John.
It's as yeah. it
Yeah, well,
is.
we are scratching around a little bit, aren't we, at this moment in time? But, there's an element of truth about what we're saying in terms of, you can't let it consume you totally.
A win against Fulham could see Leicester come out of the bottom three.
Exactly.
That's how you've got to think it.
So
one result.
Far
one
from
result.
being able to being written off, it's not like they're totally adrift and playing abysmally, etc., and getting smashed every weekend. There's life in this Leicester team and squad and outfit still up to this point. Although that becomes increasingly difficult to have that genuine belief. The longer poor runs go on,
and
if you play and you huff and you puff and you don't score and then something happens, you let another mistake, you're like, here we go again. So there is a danger of that occurring, of course there is, but I think right now the players are strong enough, the belief is still there to keep persevering.
Well, that's a nice way to end it, I think, Matt, on a nice positive note. Looking ahead then to that game with Fulham on Saturday. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. That means we'll be live from 2 as usual. Big thank you to Matt Elliott, to Ewan Roberts for their company this evening. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in and joined us as well throughout the evening, whether it was pre-match or now post-match as well. The lads will regroup and then we'll go again on the training pitch this week ahead of that big game now with Fulham here at King Power Stadium on Saturday. We'll see you all then. Good night.